Join me today as we talk about the rumored departure of Kathleen Kennedy from Lucasfilm. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name's Bobbie, and this is late February 2025. And the present rumor is that Kathleen Kennedy will be exiting Lucasfilm at the end of the year. Don't know if that's fiscal year or calendar year, but essentially that's when her current contract ends, and the word on the street is that it's not being renewed. Now, this has been rumored several other times, understandably so, since she has treated the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises like she's attempting to reimagine the Hindenburg in its final moments. But, or perhaps the Titanic if you prefer, if you're more of a James Cameron fan. And, yeah. It's been rumored several other times, but this time there appear to be several of the papers around Hollywood that do actually have people on the inside are saying it this time. So this is probably true. Now, is she being fired? Probably not. This is probably not some kind of, I mean, maybe it's a mutual decision, but I doubt it. I doubt Iger was like, so Kathy, like, you want to stop destroying Star Wars and give someone else a go at it? I doubt that's the decision here. It's probably more along the lines of she is in her 70s. She probably would like to, enjoy whatever time she has left, since she spends all of her time, making sure that Star Wars runs like a Swiss watch. And so, she wants her free time now. But yeah, no, I imagine she just wants to retire, and because again, she's in her 70s. She's made boatloads of money, I assume. I don't know what she had. I don't know if she has family or not. Don't care anywhere near enough about the woman to find out either. And nothing to do with the fact she's a woman. Say the same thing about Bob Iger. I don't even know if he's married. I don't care. Other than the fact he's destroying things I like he doesn't matter to me at all. I'll find out when he makes his inevitably doomed presidential run. So, yes, like I said, I think it's probably her just like, she's maybe she's tired of hearing the taking these slings and arrows of people talking about how she's ruining things. Maybe she feels some level of accomplishment. Maybe she's just tired, she's in her 70s, Wouldn't guess that looking at her, but she is. Yeah, so what now? Well, what some months from now? Obviously someone has to replace her. I am personally hopeful that it's not Dave Filoni. Now, I have no personal beef with Dave Filoni. At the very least, Dave Filoni is a Star Wars fan. Okay, I grant that. And that's more than I can say for certain other people working there. Like, I don't know, Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, and some other people associated with the Acolyte and some other things that have happened, or like Rianne Johnson. And, so Filoni is at the very least a fan. The problem is that, one, he's obsessed with certain areas that he just so happened to have created himself, that sometimes read like bad fan fiction, and he just can't help but put them in other things. So he needs someone to rein him in. I don't care if he keeps working there, but he needs someone else to be able to tell him, Dave, no. And that someone needs to have a good grip on the lore, because Dave has a not so great view on the lore, in my opinion. Now, I know that obviously, since it's all fake, like, you're occasionally going to have clashes, you know, something someone overlooked, you know, some detail that is different, and you're going to have occasionally clashing lore, like, especially like the bigger and bigger franchise gets and everything. So I get that. Mistakes happen. But Dave's outlook is, well, you know, his outlook is like Obi-Wan. Whenever Obi-Wan was like, well, that's what happened, Luke. Like, Vader did murder your father from a certain point of view. It's like, no, Obi-Wan, they call that lying. Like, it's not what happened. Like, there's a persona, Darth Vader, that's still Anakin. Like, no, Vader did not betray and murder Anakin. Like, Anakin became Vader. And your metaphor is very tortured there. You clearly were just lying to Luke. And Dave Filoni believes that, well, you know, all the Star Wars stories are that, essentially. And it's like, well, no, Dave, they're not. Like, they're supposed to be, like, as close to, like, objective, outside, third person that we get. Not a, well, you know, those facts are just this person's facts. Like, it could have gone this way. No. There's nothing in Star Wars that tells us we have what we call an unreliable narrator. That's what Dave's talking about. It's a writing mechanism, and you get that in, like, Warhammer 40K, apparently, and some other things. But there's never any indication that that's what's going on in Star Wars. And so that means that Dave doesn't care about clashes in the lore and canon, which is bad. The person overseeing everything can't have that attitude. Like, especially since it hasn't existed from the beginning. Like, that's just Dave not wanting to do his homework. That's Dave like, hey, I got this really cool idea. Well, it clashes with the lore. Yeah, I don't care. Like, no. Sorry, full stop. Ain't happening. Like, that can't be permitted to happen. So that's why I think of the people, of the creatives that are, like, around at the moment, I would personally like to see someone like Jon Favreau take over, because I think he's worked at other studios, he's helmed all kinds of projects, obviously knows what he's doing from working on the Iron Man franchise and other things, and The Mandalorian, you know. So I think he'd be a better steward if he wanted the job. Maybe someone like Ron Howard. You know, I think he would do it justice. Maybe his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard. She's good with things. Maybe you know, I'm sure there's several other people, several other potentials. I would prefer to see it if it was someone that had experience with Star Wars. But it's not an absolute, but it's got to be someone that respects Star Wars. And I mainly mean the Lucas canon there. It'd be great if they brought in George Lucas as a consultant. And, you know, just lay it out for him, like, George, look, we're not going to do everything your way. Like, you did sell the franchise. Like, however, as the guy who created it, we do want your input. Like, when we have questions, like, we would like you there. And if you're there and you see something, you know, say something. And, you know, maybe we'll put it in, maybe we won't, you know, but, like, we want you to be a part of it. Like, this is your baby. Like, we've not been taking care of it as we should have, you know, like, that kind of thing. Or someone like Sam Witwer. Well, Sam Witwer shouldn't be put in charge of everything. Probably not. because I don't know what he has on the like the creative, like the writing, directing, producing, that kind of end. But on the acting end, like, you know, but he should maybe be looked at as someone who maybe if he's up to it, you know, maybe start seeing if he wants to be on the more creative end, you know, because he clearly cares a lot about the franchise from interviews and things. And is pretty knowledgeable. So there's that. But then there is I suppose, the larger elephant in the room of assuming certain major decisions were made by Kennedy, like what happens going forward? Is the edict on the old EU going to remain? Is there any realistic possibility of anything of the Disney canon being retconned? And I personally don't think so, even though I think that's kind of what they have to do to right the ship. Because I don't know what the average fan that's like, okay, I don't know what the average person who's a fan would think. You know, because they'd be presented with a new episode 7 eventually, and they'd be like, didn't we already have an episode 7? What's happening here? And that can work for, say, the Halloween franchise, which I've documented in other videos, is basically like a choose-your-own-adventure franchise, which is fantastic, but, like, those are low-budget horror movies. You know, their expectations at the box office are not to make hundreds of millions of dollars, or nearly $1 billion. It'd be like, I guess the closest comparison would be like if the MCU reset to like just after Endgame, which, I mean, it could do. Like, all the mechanisms are there narratively to make that happen, and maybe people would actually like that because they haven't seemed to have liked this last phase. So, but like, would it cheapen things? Would it make it so people are less invested? Because I know that's how I feel after the EU got nuked. I have not at all engaged in the current version of the EU. And for those of you who are like, oh, it's canon. No, it's not. Like, don't kid yourselves. No one at Disney gives a single solitary shit about what's written in a single comic book or novel. You know, you're lucky Operation Cinder even got mentioned. Like, nothing in those books is going to matter. If these people want to make a change, like, it's going to happen. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's already happened a couple times. And people just kind of keep papering over the fact that it has, in fact, already happened. And Disney's never going to care. Because you could tell by the way they nuked the old EU. You know, once they made that decision, that was clear how what they considered those things. And it's obvious that was never going to get in their way. And Lucas felt the same way about the EU, you know. So, you know, it is what it is. But, no, I don't think they'll decanonize stuff. I just don't think they'll do it. I mean, this is when they would do it if they were going to do it. But I don't think they would. Because to do that, I don't know where you draw the line is the problem. Because, like, you can't take out... Well, I guess you could take out the sequel trilogy and not take out Rogue One or Solo or The Mandalorian. You'd have to kind of gloss over some things. You know, you'd have to kind of paper over some things, or, you know, recontextualize them. Like, I think the main thing is just Operation Cinder being mentioned in The Mandalorian, because if anything needs to be retconned, it's that's just beyond stupid. So, yeah, and I don't think they will. What they could do is embrace the fact that a lot of the authors are still alive from the old EU and start putting out more new EU material, or choose to animate some of the EU books. And, you know, be clear that, you know, it's Legends canon. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. But I don't know. I've got my doubts that they're going to nuke the current canon, and because I just, like I said, I think that as a studio they don't understand. You know, they look at the bottom line. The sequel trilogy made money, and although they'll never figure out that, like, but wait, we haven't made any new movies since then. Why was that again? Like, they'll never put two and two together to make the actual logical conclusion, because studios don't do that. These are people who deal in deception. Like, they produce very, very nice fantasies, very nice lies for us to watch, and, well, they engage in that to the point of, like, self-deception on a huge scale. They will never ever admit, oh, this was a mistake, maybe we should have done this. And so instead they'll be like, well, no, they really failed because of the toxic fan base, you know, or some stupid shit like that. And so they'll never actually draw the accurate conclusion. So if they were to take things out, they would take it all out. There wouldn't be any kind of, like, well, you know, guys, Rogue One was popular, Solo was tolerable, you know, Andor seems to be highly rated, and they wouldn't do anything like keep Solo and Andor and maybe Obi-Wan, maybe Ahsoka, you know, and then nuke the rest. You know, they wouldn't do that. Like, they wouldn't keep the parts that people find at least anywhere from tolerable to good, and just get rid of the bad, which you could do with, you know, in The Mandalorian, which you could do pretty easily. And from that base, try to rebuild. And because if you keep that as the base, then just go into the Thrawn trilogy. I mean, that's all you need right there. You go into the Thrawn trilogy, get Timothy Zahn as your consultant, get Ron Howard in there to direct, unless you can convince Steven Spielberg, maybe. Then get Lucas, you know, on board, and you'll have to get a de-aged Carrie Fisher at this point, and an alive and de-aged Carrie Fisher, and you have to do something for Han, and then you've already got the guy that can do Luke, and just run with it, you know, and then either follow the old EU or use that as a launching point for a new direction. Yeah, I mean, do that, and I think you'll win a big chunk of the fan base over. Now, maybe you do something really crazy and somehow try to integrate Poe, Finn, and Rey as slightly different versions of their characters into that story, in such a way that then they can continue on as your newer characters, you know, maybe something like that. I don't know. I have to think about that. But anyway, that's about all I got on this one. I can think of a scene from The Wizard of Oz that is potentially appropriate right about here, somewhere shortly after Dorothy crashes into the Munchkin Kingdom. And yeah, so anyway, it appears that Kathleen Kennedy is probably out, and we'll only have a few more months to wreck whatever else she feels like wrecking. Already destroyed Willow, did a number on Indiana Jones, and has done some serious damage to Star Wars to the point it might be irreparable. But yeah, so hell of a legacy there, Kathy. Congratulations. But yeah, and George, I do have to kind of fault you here since you did handpick her. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got on this one. So let me know what you guys think. Will a new day dawn at Lucasfilm, or will we get someone worse? Will they do something stupid like put someone like Rian Johnson in charge? Put some yes man? Or will they get like their own Kevin Feige, but also like constrained Kevin Feige that made like the MCU the good parts, and not unrestrained Kevin Feige who's just like gone off the rails here in Phase 4? We'll see. Now, let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But yeah, sharing and commenting on things that help us grow the channel, we always appreciate it. But that's all I've got. So remember, the Force will be with you always.